If you do not want to make the same mistakes every beginner makes on their first knife, come with me and I will help you. This is a series where I will show you, from start to finish, how to build a knife the right way. And today we are starting with the design, which is where a lot of people already get it wrong. First, I draw a horizontal line. Then I cross it with a vertical line at 90 degrees. On the right side will be the blade, and from this line, we start defining its length. In this case, I will use 13 centimeters. Now I define the maximum height of the blade, which will be 3.5 centimeters. With that, we create a base rectangle, and this is important because it will guide the entire rest of the design. Now I mark the ricasso, which will be the main reference point of the blade. It sits inside this rectangle, aligned with the perpendicular line. First I define the height, then the width, and close the shape. Here it will be 2.5 centimeters by 1 centimeter. The choil, which is where the cutting edge ends. And here comes an important point. At the tip of the blade, I go down 1 centimeter from the spine. This defines the drop of the tip, because we are making a drop point blade. Now I mark where the spine starts to drop. Usually this happens around 1/3 of the total blade length. Here I am using about 4 centimeters. With a curve ruler, I draw the spine all the way to the tip. Now I move to the edge. First, I make a light freehand line just to visualize the curve. Then I adjust it with the ruler until I find a shape that works well. I finish the edge up to the choil and close the tip. Now we move to the tang, which is the part that goes inside the handle. I leave it with at least 8 centimeters in length. The longer the tang, the stronger the knife as a whole, so this makes a difference. Using the ricasso as a base, I go down 5 millimeters on the top and up 5 millimeters on the bottom, then adjust the lines and define the tang shape. Now that everything is sketched, I reinforce the drawing with a pen. And an important tip. If you transfer this drawing to thin wood or plastic, it will make it much easier when moving to steel. Now we move to the guard, and this is one of the most common beginner mistakes. The height of the guard must match the ricasso. This is not optional. It must align perfectly with the top and bottom lines of the ricasso. It can be 1 millimeter larger, but no more than that. But it should never, under any circumstance, be smaller than the ricasso. If the ricasso is much bigger or much smaller than the guard, that is a serious mistake. With that defined, I draw the part of the ricasso that sits close to the blade, with 4.5 millimeters in height. At the point where the guard meets the handle, at the height of the ricasso, I draw a curve and adjust the shape. To make this curve, I use a bearing with the same diameter as the one I use on my grinder. The width of the guard stays between 1 and 1.2 centimeters. Then I reinforce the drawing. You can also make a template of the guard to make things easier later. Now we move to the handle. I use the vertical line as a reference for the total length. About 12.5 centimeters. Then I mark the finger area, which is around 9.5 centimeters from the reference line. After that, I define where the curvature of the handle spine starts toward the pommel, roughly 5.5 centimeters from the reference. The final drop of the handle I place slightly below the blade tip line, about 1.5 centimeters. I draw the curve freehand and then refine it with the ruler. Now I mark the transition point of the pommel, which will be about 4.5 centimeters from the base. Again, I draw the curve freehand and then adjust it. Now we move to the lower part of the handle, where the fingers sit. I start by marking the midpoint between the two lower points. Then I define the height, here between 3 and 3.5 centimeters. I connect this point to the guard, always being careful not to go below the lower line of the ricasso. And I close the final line of the handle. Now it is just a matter of finishing the drawing and reinforcing everything with a pen. And again, I recommend making a template. It will make the execution much easier. If this helped you, leave a comment with your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions or if you think anything was missing, and don't forget to like and share. And in the next one, I will show you how to turn this design into steel.